everyone, it's MultiGreenThunder, and today we are here for Thomas Top 5s, the brand new series coming on to
Whoa. What do you mean top 5s? Multi, I'm here too.
Top 5. Well, it's about my top 5. It's like
No. It's about our top 10. Remember?
Top 10s, you say?
You do your top 5, I do my top 5. That makes 10.
Oh, I'm sorry. I sucked at addition in school, but I was pretty good at subtraction.
Well, your failure at addition here has really betrayed me. I don't know if I can host this show with you if we're gonna be in this place.
Wow, we didn't last one episode.
I know, right? Wow. All right, but legitimately, people. That's the concept for the show is this. Multi does his top 5, I do my top 5, and
together.
Each episode, yes, together. And each episode we break down a different topic. And it's really anything you can think of.
We could literally do an episode, like we'll have say we might have top 5 favorite episodes, or top 5 episodes of a season, or top 5 favorite rocks on Sodor. And let me guarantee to you that my favorite rock is indeed Boulder.
That's honestly kind of an obvious choice now that I think about it. That wouldn't even be well, what about the one that falls on the tracks when Rusty one that
yeah, why has no one done a custom of that yet?
I know that rock right there. That is that just warms the stage for Boulder. Boulder wouldn't have been nearly as threatening without that rock.
It's like Grand Moff Tarkin is to Darth Vader. It is such a great companion piece.
Truly.
You know how action figures come with accessories? We should have Boulder merchandise that comes with that little rock as an accessory.
We should, but I just wish I'd thought of it. Now, okay, we're the thing is we're getting their hopes up. Today's episode is not about rocks.
What?
I'm sorry. It's not. No, we can't start off with that. That's more like a finale type episode. Today we are focusing on the top 5, each of our top 5 favorite Thomas crashes from all of the show.
That's right. We're starting with a bang.
Basically, an hour before starting recording here, Multi and I have been trying to figure out our top 5 favorites. And while it's
really hard.
It's extremely hard. We've both been in a call together talking to each other about it. But we haven't been trying not to tell each other what our list is. So you're going to hear our live reactions to what we picked as our top 5 favorite crashes. And, I mean, do you want to get started, Multi?
Yes, let's go ahead. All right, so let's just go ahead and start off right here with number 5. Which is one of the most iconic crashes in the entire series. David Mitten's experience with tugs was really showing with this one. It is the Rusty and the Boulder crash / explosion from Rusty and the Boulder.
Of course you put that on there. That makes sense. I wonder how predictable your list is going to be. Is there anything on it that isn't from Season 5?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I'm proud of you.
Yes. You see, I did watch other seasons.
Debatable. So let's see. My 5th is... This is actually an interesting one, and it might seem underwhelming at first. It's Bill and Ben crashing into each other in double teething troubles.
Ooh, no. Oh, I didn't even think of that one.
Yeah, I always really loved that specific crash because it... the thing is, I just... There's something so satisfying. They come in at the exact same angle. The points are
The engines look almost identical, and they're twin engines, but...
And also just the way, they're so wide that it's when they bump into each other, and then they both come off the rails in the exact same way. It's just a really unique crash, and it's really satisfying to watch, because it's it's a good allegory for their relationship as well, just because it's
if you needed one image to symbolize them, it would actually be that scene.
I know, right? And it's it symbolizes the fact that they're constantly fighting with each other, but over pointless things where neither of them is right. And it's that just symbolizes it perfectly, as they both crash into each other. They both end up in the exact same place, and they're both idiots. It's perfect. I love how Boko comes in and he's just annoyed. He's just come on.
This is the 3rd time this week, guys.
And also, I will say, That my dad would always constantly quote that line that the Fat Controller says, where he's like, "Bill and Ben, behave yourselves." It's like such a satisfying line. So I'm very attached to that line.
For me, back to mine, I have probably perhaps one of the most involved Crash ever to have to be made, and if anyone is ever doing a remake of a Crash in the series that was done with models, this would probably be one of the hardest ones to accurately recreate, and that's the Rusty and the Boulder Crash. Now, the whole episode...
So when you say the Rusty and the Boulder Crash, do you mean the one at the very end where Boulder runs into the sheds?
There are actually several crashes leading up to it during Boulder's runaway sequence, but I mean the explosion crash. And... well, one personally narrowly dies. He almost dies. But then he misses him, and then the shed, I guess, was filled with explosives or something, because some reason it explodes upon impact. And I mean, there's an explosion. Do I even need to say much more? I mean, what? There's an explosion.
It is pretty cool.
I just love what it symbolizes, just how great a crash can be. Not only, I keep saying the word explosion, but even afterwards, just how well it's shot to where there's burn marks on Boulder, and
I also love how doesn't it slow down?
Yes,
to hit the sheds?
Yes, at the very end, they add a slow mo to it and stuff like that.
Yeah, that is a really good one.
Yeah, and I love also, there's one thing I want to say about the crashes in the classic series as opposed to later on is that the narration tends to go quiet very often, if I'm remembering right, compared to the new series.
Yeah, I do like
everything
that.
just stops. Even the music calms down. It just makes way for the sound effects until afterwards there's eventually the eerie music, and of course there's Top Hat's famous line from the episode.
Yeah, that's really awesome. I think the reason this didn't make it onto my list, though, is because it doesn't really involve an engine.
It's a rock!
The coolest thing about it, in my mind, is that it destroys the sheds, and seeing the sheds collapse is really cool. I don't know, seeing a perfectly spherical rock hurled into some sheds, it doesn't have
bowling.
That Thomasy feel. Yeah. So, for that reason, it is a cool crash, it is iconic, but I didn't consider it for some reason. I think it's just because it didn't involve an engine.
Bowling with Thomas themed? I got a new Rainbow Station idea!
Oh my god. So anyway, our number 4s now. Should I start or should you?
How about you go ahead and start with this one?
Alright. So my number 4 is Oliver falling into the turntable well in Oliver Owns Up. I always really loved that crash. Where he just... because it's so satisfying. He gets to the point where his wheelbase is half... It's more than half of it is in the air, and so he slowly pivots down, and then when his buffers hit the ground, they just crush into it, and there's this smash sound and this big boom. You really feel how big and massive and just huge this locomotive is. And I love how the trucks stay where they are, but Oliver tilts upwards.
So rarely see an engine in that position.
Yeah,
so
I know.
Rarely.
I would constantly recreate that. I tried to recreate it with the wooden railway.
And it sucks for that.
Yeah, with the action roundabout turntable. I would take out the wooden piece, and then there would be this slight divot, and I would push Oliver into it backwards, but it still wouldn't work because it's not deep enough. And no brand capitalized on that and made a turntable that really, could properly do that. I mean,
they don't sink in enough. I had the plastic one as a kid, the one you turn the wheel and it'd spin around and stuff like that. I just take out the centerpiece and have the plastic, and it worked. I mean, it's better than nothing, but at the same time, it's it's not as fun.
Yeah.
Before I get into mine, one thing I want to say about your crashes, another thing that's really awesome about this crash is, this is probably one of the most impactful crashes in the whole series, because this begins kind of an arc that's going to continue into Toad Stands By. This crash has consequences. Because now, all the trucks are going to be constantly making fun of him about this. It's a really impactful crash, which some of you don't see as often. A lot of them are a lot more one episode and done, but this is like James and his bootlace incident, to where it's going to have repercussions later.
Yeah, and I really love that it has that effect, because it makes it a lot more significant.
Alright, well, going on to my number 4, it's one that, not only does it have a beautiful crash, but it's, once again, what it causes in effect, but not so much overarching, just in this episode. That is put upon Percy the engines, or the Percy bashing the trucks into the mine, which at the front may or may not be Scruffy. Up for debate on that one. I'm gonna go with not Scruffy.
Yeah, same.
But okay, first up, this shot is completely beautiful because the mindset is gorgeous. Like, it's so ominous and be really neat to walk into, even if sometimes you can kind of see the exit where the trucks were going to exit from, the light at the end of the tunnel. But it's not only is it very good and has some great music, but that crash is one of the most messed up when you really think about it. Okay, not only do you have that really cool shot where, I'm just gonna call the front truck Scruffy, but it's not Scruffy. He bashes into the wall side piece. You see the plank come down. You just see the rocks falling in. And then, of course, the overarching thing is, like, you have everything's just so quiet, shaking. And then, get out of here fast, the mine's collapsing. Yeah. There's no music. You hear the sirens. I don't know about you, but sirens kind of freaking terrify me sometimes. They remind me of, like, tornado sirens.
It's supposed to be terrifying, though. I mean, the way that they do it is really good, where it's like, the silence is a good point to bring up, because it really just, seems a lot more serious when it's just like, it's more like an oh my god moment. When the second that truck hits that pole and then things start falling in, even the music isn't going to tell you what's going on. You just know. You're just like, it's the equivalent of, like, you drop a vase and everyone in the room looks at you and everyone's silent and you're just like, oh my god.
Exactly.
It's like that.
And then that song, it's in Toby and the Flood also, which I just looked up, and I thought Toby and the Flood came first, but this is actually the episode right before Toby and the Flood. That song just is the best, probably, disaster theme in all of Thomas history.
It's really
good. And it's so scary. But one thing I really wanted to cement here is, like, those trucks, like, those things were buried. Like,
I know, they're just dead. They're just trapped down there. It's like,
Percy is lucky to find that canvas barrier, because, like, that, out of all the crashes in the show, I think I might say that one's that we actually saw in the TV series. That one is the most morbid, because that is literally a mine collapsing in on several trucks.
Yeah, well, we see trucks die in other occasions,
in more gruesome ways, but there's just something about everything just falling into
it really is. It is really morbid that they're just stuck down there and they're never getting out. There's probably also a lot of people that died, because if the mine was being used at the time, how much time do people really have to do?
Don't tell Percy that.
I could see an accident like that getting Percy sent off the railway, because that's a really serious thing to happen. You know what I find funny, though, is if you look in the episode, really the only place where there's an actual avalanche outside the mine is where the canvas barrier is. So if Percy had just stayed at the mine entrance, he would have been fine, but instead he basically, if you looked at that whole situation from far away, it would look ridiculous. You would look and see an avalanche. You'd see an avalanche forming on the far right of the screen. You'd see Percy racing over there as fast as he could, and then it buries him. That's what you would see. It's like,
oh man, I never even noticed.
Yeah, it's not the best choice on Percy's part, but I just assume that really that's a mistake, and that the avalanche covers more ground than they showed.
Yeah. I mean, to his credit, it was kind of scary when all the smoke came out of the mine, yeah. And like that scared me.
And he just has this reflex where he runs away backwards in situations where he's
I won't stay here. I'll run away.
Yeah, that's just something he does, so it makes sense. But yeah, it's a really cool, and also that set in general is just awesome. And I also considered this one because I love the moment where the truck hits the pole face first, and the truck stops immediately, and the truck bends. Mm-hmm. The truck bends at this angle, and there's this huge this huge bashing noise. Again, you feel that these things are really massive vehicles. So I really do love that. That's a really awesome crash and has a lot of weight and power to it and a massive effect. It's just really cool overall. So let's see. What's your number 3?
All right. Number 3 for me is the most punny episode name of the whole series, Brake Van. Keeping the topic alive of morbid crashes. Okay, that is... this might be my number 1 as far as morbidness goes. You see the spikeful brake van literally break into, completely shoved between a heavy steam-powered locomotive and a struggling back of a train, and just break in two. And it's kind of morbid to say this, but it's very satisfying just seeing the wood split in pieces. And it's, especially if you're watching it restored, it's very detailed. And then afterwards, you see the remains, and you see his face getting lifted up. He's got like a black eye, like, jeez.
Yeah, that crash is fantastic. And I love how the van kind of breaks in. Like, they cut it and prepared it in such a way that it breaks in half in the right way, where it really splinters like wood. It really goes into smithereens. It doesn't just come off its chassis. Like, the van literally is splinters and goes up and into a V shape and just smashes, and it's the wood is everywhere. It really is satisfying, and it makes Douglas if it had just been had the buffers broken or it came off the chassis or something, that wouldn't look nearly as impressive. But Douglas,
or just fell off the track or something.
But Douglas looks really powerful, like this massive metal steam engine. The fact that he can crush the van like that, it makes, even though Douglas's model really isn't that powerful, it looks like it is because of how they prepared the van to smash like that, and it looks amazing. So I do really love that one. As for what I chose, I chose. So this one I was actually thinking about making my number one, but I thought about it some more, and I thought, well, I've always loved this crash. It's kind of always my go-to when I say what my favorite is. But after analyzing it more, I don't think it is, but it is my third. Special Attraction. I love that crash.
Oh, yes.
It's really just the fact that it involves water, the fact that Bulstrode is floating in the water, right? And Bulstrode's this massive barge, and there's just all the trucks fall one by one, their loads fall out, and they all land perfectly in his hole.
They land so well. That must have been so hard to do. Because anyone's ever tried to film a crash in that type of thing, trucks like to fly everywhere and not land where you want them to.
Yeah, it's such a cool crash, and I love how Bulstrode starts rumbling around and kind of he's splashing water everywhere. And if they didn't, I wouldn't like this crash half as much if they didn't use real water, but they did, and that was so cool to see because he's this actual barge that's kind of
bopping around.
Yeah, exactly. And also the distance it falls from. In the Railway series, it's nothing like that, and it's just a normal dock that they get pushed off the edge of.
That thing is ginormous in the TV series.
It's insane, and it doesn't even make much sense.
It's completely ridiculous.
Yeah, it's ridiculous in the TV series because Bulstrode is moored up next to nothing. There's not even a way to load him up there because he's too far back. He's not next to a loading area. But it does make an amazing crash that it is so high up because it's just a lot cooler to watch.
Jeez, and by the way, I am a sucker for scenes involving water in Thomas, whether it was a crash or not. If anyone's seen my 2017 community video, a lot of the shots I put at the beginning of it were scenes involving water as some of my favorites.
Yeah, I just love I love water sets. They're so cool, and that's something.
Can you tell we like tugs?
Yeah, I think that's something we have tugs to thank for, because season 2 had water, but it really became a thing in season 3 after tugs. And we got a lot of great. I mean, Izzy Gomez from Tugs is to the left of Bulstrode in that very scene. So it's just the water makes that.
It's symbolic.
Yes, very good. All right, should we go on to our number 2s?
Yes. All right, so this one is from Duncan Gets Spooked, and this is the first crash you see in the episode. And let me just talk about how beautiful that crash is.
It is gorgeous.
It's they are loaded with so much wood, which is something you don't see being carried as much. You got these bigger scale, or I don't know if this is the small scale trucks or the bigger scale trucks, but they're going off the bridge. You just see the wood flying everywhere. You have these really well-designed trucks already where they don't look overly clean. They're dirty and stuff like that. But the wood's flinging everywhere. You got this nasty ravine underneath them with trucks slowly crashing.
I love the ravine. The ravine, I always love that. It's just because it's this great texture. This is actually a reason I was almost going to put the crash from Busy Going Backwards in here.
Same! That's why I was wanting to put that on the list.
Because I love that, there's this consistency where it's it's this kind of mud, but not mud. There's, it's really, thick and, and also that crash from Duncan. that where Duncan flies into the ravine. Yeah, I love that one as well. Just every time a ravine shows up, it's so cool. The one in Busy Going Backwards isn't one, but it has a similar texture. I just love seeing the trucks fly into that. It's so satisfying.
Fun fact, also to prepare for this, we were watching those compilation videos with the SpongeBob music of all the crashes. And one of the ones I saw from the new series I really like too is one where Scarloey goes into like a pond or something and the water's really filthy. Like, I'm kind of a sucker for those. I love those.
Yeah.
And also, when you see the trucks at the end of the ravine, like, you see them and they're like broken up. And then through the rest of the episode, they're kind of like, yeah, they'll come back to haunt you. And it's like, wow, that's like, I don't think I've ever seen an episode just like imply, yeah, those trucks are dead, like they're gone.
Yeah, that's so dark. But yeah, so it's a really, I really do love that crash. It's just really a satisfying crash, and anything that gets the engines or rolling stock involved really dirty and even causes damage is just a really neat thing to see. It has a huge impact. So my second is going to be a pretty radical turn now. It's the suspension bridge collapsing from Slow Steven. I love that collapse. I love that crash for like so many reasons. This is one of the most heroic moments in the whole show. I love this Steven moment because he knows that the bridge could collapse at any moment, and he's so old, and he's not in a state to be doing this sort of thing. But he does it anyway, because he knows lives are at stake. And he speeds backwards across the bridge, and he knows that the thing is really weak, and everyone's in danger. And earlier in this episode, Gordon has insulted Steven horribly, told him that he's useless, and that he's blocking the line all the time, and that they don't want him around, right? And then, so Steven goes, he manages to cross the bridge with an incredible effort, and Gordon's coming, right? And Gordon, skids to a stop behind Steven, and at first he's furious. He's like, "Steven, what are you doing here? The express cannot..." And then all of a sudden the bridge snaps and starts falling apart in front of all of them, and it makes this huge crashing, screeching noise, and the whole thing, it's beautifully shot. It's incredibly dramatic watching this thing fall apart. And the whole thing, we zoom out. First we have close-up shots of parts of it breaking and the track falling off and stuff, and then we get a zoomed out shot. And oh my god, the thing is decimated. Like, it's so serious. And then we cut back to Steven and Gordon's jaw has just dropped. He's like, oh my god, I would have died. All my passengers would have died. And Gordon is speechless, and he's like, "Steven, you saved me. And my passengers.
You saved me!"
And he doesn't know what to say, right? Because Gordon goes from saying that Steven is useless and blocking him, and he's furious that he won't let him past, and then 10 seconds later, Gordon is incredibly grateful and apologetic. And what I love about it is it subverts a certain situation where we've seen dozens of times in the show Gordon chewing someone out and being a jerk, right? And this time, like the 23rd or whatever time that we finally see Gordon chew somebody out, he gets cut off in the middle and told by an accident how wrong he is. Like, the accident cuts him off and shows him, as if for nature itself to say, "Gordon, shut the hell up. He saved your life." It's amazing. Steven saved hundreds of people, and all of those coaches, and Gordon. He would have been dead. And that sinks into the audience when you zoom out on the bridge and see that track he would have gone on is literally slumped over the side. It's totally destroyed. I think that might be the most serious crash in the entire show. That would have been the worst crash ever. Yeah, because they take great pains in the show to make absolutely certain that the Express doesn't get involved in any serious crashes. If it is, it's like Gordon runs at a moderate speed, runs into some tankers, and even then it's not too serious. But literally, we see that he would have careened off the edge of the bridge and died. It's so serious. I mean, like, it, and the scene tells you that, right? The show embraces it. For once, it doesn't actually back away from the seriousness and say, okay, but luckily no one was hurt. No, it's saying everybody would have died. For sure. The show tells us that directly, without any hesitation. That's how dramatic that episode and that scene is. And that's what makes what Steven did there one of the most heroic things an engine has ever done on Sodor. Despite everything, despite his physical limitations, and despite all of the cruelty that Gordon has thrown his direction, Steven doesn't even think twice. He risks his own life to get to the other side, to stop Gordon, and to save hundreds of lives. That's an amazing scene, an amazing crash, and it's just amazing to witness. And that scene would not be powerful without the crash, without the way that it's executed, without the bridge collapsing. Because if just part of it broke off or something, or like a cable snapped, it wouldn't be a big deal. But literally the whole side is just, that is what gives that scene its power, is because looking at that right there, looking at what's on our screens, we're able to visualize Gordon dying by looking at that. And you can't do that with any other crash Gordon's been a part of. Not like with that one. So that one is incredibly powerful, and I think it definitely deserves to be my number 2.
Let's give it up for Steven, ladies and gentlemen.
That episode is probably in my top 10 favorites.
I think you just, as far as like my favorite to least favorite characters, I think you just bumped up Steven a few notches from wherever he ranks in that list.
And it involves Gordon almost dying, and he's my favorite character. So that episode just nails it for me.
Because you almost lost your favorite character.
Yes, true. But yeah, so I love that episode, and I love that accident.
Beautiful, just beautiful. All right, so shall I go ahead and begin my number 1?
Yes, your number 1.
All right, I know you guys have all been eagerly awaiting this. My number 1 crash is one that is very, very overlooked. It is the crash from the old iron bridge where Scarlowy just kind of hits the thing. It's very underwhelming, like nothing happens. It makes you question.
Surprisingly, I also made that my number 1.
Yeah, I know, right? Like, just think about it. Like, of all the detailed sets we've had in the past, just the way you just kind of run through the bridge and just clump.
Well, the thing is, the reason I made it my number 1 is because you didn't see this part, but there's actually a deleted scene where a few seconds after he does the clump, then he blows up. The whole bridge blows up.
Yes,
in a fiery display.
And then for good measure, Boulder emerges from the sky and just drops right down where the bridge was.
Yeah, exactly. Scarlowy blows up, then he falls down, and then he's like, I survived! But then Boulder starts falling from the sky, and we get a POV looking up, and we see Boulder's face coming towards us, and he's like, not today.
It's coming down like the Majora's Mask moon. Just there's fire around him, and it crashes.
It's like in Thomas Blows His Stack, where it's like, it had to be done.
I picture like a Sodor mob just coming out of a car that just starts shooting the remains.
Okay, but you know what I'm realizing, Multi, is I think both of our number 1s are going to really disappoint people, so I think we should probably choose something else right now, just so...
Yeah, I mean, that's what happens when you find exclusive footage. You can't talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
Alright, my real number 1, it's Duncan Gets Spooked Crash B. It's actually the old engine, or ghost engine, whatever you want to call him, he was unnamed, falls off the bridge and dies.
Really?
Is a very... Because when you think what would be the best crashers, you think something loud, something explosive, boulder emerging from the sky, something like that. But no. This is what I was very on the fence about. Well, one, I'd like to bring up my top 2 are falling. They're not really crashes, but...
Yeah, well, mine was my second was a bridge collapsing, so like...
Wait, crash, quote unquote.
I feel like anything that's a severe mechanical incident I would consider a crash.
Yeah. We'll probably still call this episode Crashes because severe mechanical incident doesn't get as many views. Seriously, though. Though this, I want to talk about, because this is one of my favorite moments of the whole series. I remember just being so intrigued by this as a child. You know, Scary Stuff and Thomas intrigued me more. Just the music. It's so ominous and eerie. It's not loud in your face. It's just very eerie. You see a beautiful moonlight set on this same set you just saw a little bit earlier and stuff, but the gentle fog going across it, and it's just so simple. It's just a little engine going over a bridge, something goes wrong, and he falls. And you just see a slow-mo crash.
It's so sad,
yeah.
too.
You see the murky water coming up, and it's like of all the things that could have happened, he just fell.
Yeah, it's like... It's really powerful because it's not like it's it's not like it's a dramatic scene where he loses control and then veers off. It's just like a quiet death where he just like falls off, and we see him fall and we feel so helpless.
And
it's like
no one else is there. It's just him, his crew on a quiet night, and he just falls through the ravine. And then, of course, later on you see like the Legend of the Workman, where you see the ghosts, and there's such a powerful line. It's like they think they see the engine going across, but he never makes it to the other side.
That's really powerful. That is a really good one, and it's just a great looking crash too. It makes absolutely no sense.
No, I don't know. Oh, did he run into an invisible rock? Was it that rock from Rusty and the Boulder that would cause trouble?
They should have built that set with the bridge curving. That would have made at least a little more sense.
But I'm thinking it's that rock from Rusty and the Boulder, that the companion piece to Boulder. He hit that and goes off the bridge.
Oh, God.
That's the only explanation I have for that crash. But yeah, that's my favorite. I was kind of really thinking, like, does this count? Like, is this the right one? But for me, so is the show. Sometimes the simplest thing works.
I was not expecting that as your favorite. I do really love that one.
Fun fact beforehand. I was telling him, like, I was kind of explaining, like, does this count because it's falling down something? And he thought it was the Magic Railroad viaduct collapse.
I thought that because like that's the first thing I think of when I think of an engine falling.
Which is a great scene, by the way, too, as well. It's the whole chase sequence is brilliant. But for me, it was just ominence and simplicity won the day.
Yeah. For me, my number one is Diesel 10 falling off the viaduct.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, you know what? We didn't end up with the same one. Well, at least the second time around.
I'm surprised you didn't even have that on your list. Like,
I love that scene, but it's such a brilliant scene. But I think for me, it's just more so just the overall sequence that's the bigger thing. Which, granted, I guess I could count that. But for me, like, these were more impactful for me. But I would really like to see your explanation of why you chose this one.
So I wouldn't count the whole sequence. It was really cool, but the Diesel 10 falling off the viaduct is, I think, probably, if I had to guess what is the most recreated crash by any kid, by anybody in the world,
I agree.
Out of everything,
I agree.
I think it would be this one. And I recreated
just look at
so
the view
times.
counts on the Magic Railroad scene remakes. He's not lying.
And Magic Railroad inspired me so much with the models when I would say when I was younger, but just in general. Like, the thing is, that's like, I remember there was a time where I was super into it, trying to recreate it a lot. And it's still a huge inspiration to me, but like back then especially, it really got me started in loving model making and loving models. And that's just such a cool scene. Is Diesel 10, like, literally, because he's this huge mainline diesel with this big claw, and he veers off the edge, and it's slowed down, and I love seeing him, like, tip off the edge. It's kind of like how Oliver does, where he, like, hits the point where he's not balanced, and then he kind of comes off. That's such a neat look, seeing an engine do that. Yeah. And so Diesel 10 does that, and he comes off. I don't know how he swings his claw around.
I was saying, like, does he grab the track, and then it's like somehow that rail still defies physics like bad, holds him up, and then it's like the engine just kind of snaps back upward. Like, how does that work?
that would probably just tear his arm off. But like, I don't know how that sleeper holds him.
That Sodor is made with some quality materials. I mean, their buffers might suck, but at least they have good sleepers.
Yes. But yeah, I just think that's such a neat, like, because Diesel 10 is just such a cool-looking character. Seeing him get in a crash is amazing.
Another reason why this one is so... Well, one thing, two things I'd like to bring up here is, like, you were talking earlier about how, like, the slow Steven one, and, like, what would have happened with Gordon. Here we're actually seeing something we don't see as often as a character falling off a very big, like, a very tall height off a bridge.
Yeah, it's really serious. I don't know how he rotates 90 degrees to fall in that barge. And I also don't think there is boat traffic along that river. There might be. But it just, it's so, like, the fact that he falls in the barge, too, is just so satisfying. There's, like, 3 parts to it. You get to see him fall off, you get to see him grab the thing, and then literally see him, like, holding on to it and pointing straight upward. And then you get to see him fall into the barge.
Kettle!
It's just so cool. And he looks so messed up when he's in the barge, which makes sense, because they actually legitimately dropped the model. They didn't catch it. I read this in an SIF interview.
Really?
Yeah, I've told you this.
Oh, I forgot.
Really?
Yeah. I guess that makes sense why his claw is so messed up in Calling All Engines, like we talked before.
Do you like Magic Railroad as much as I think you do?
Yes!
You didn't put any Magic Railroad stuff at all on your list. I am utterly shocked.
I love that crash, but I thought these were better. Like, it's a great sequence, but I don't know, maybe it's too clean. I don't know. I like it. I love it, but I didn't even think of. I didn't even put it on the short list. Like, I thought about it, but
really, that's shocking. I'm surprised.
I love the sequence, but maybe I just like it so much more cinematically as opposed to the actual crash. Whereas maybe I feel like everything is. Then again, I guess you could say the same thing for my number one. But
here's how I kind of look at the crashes. I look at every one of them kind of differently, but here I think to myself, if I had the models and I didn't need to worry about damaging them, and I had access to everything from the show, what would I want to do? I would want to put Diesel 10's claw on a sleeper and hang him from the viaduct. That's what I would want to do. Like, that's the coolest thing. I want like, there's those pictures and videos of them filming the thing, where one guy is holding.
Yes, I was thinking about that.
Yeah, and then the other person's like tying the thing so that his claw stays on there, and it's like, I want to be that person. That's so cool.
Who doesn't want to hold that? Okay. By the way, if I could own any model from the show, it would be Diesel 10. Diesel 10, yeah, number one.
Without a doubt. Like, he's the best.
Oh, man. Now we can't do top 5 models we'd want to own.
That would be a really good episode. We should actually... if anybody's still listening, by the way, put in the comments what you want us to do next, and we'll definitely...
Yeah,
we
might have spoiled, which probably would be both our number ones, but, if you're still interested...
Yeah, we've already ruined it. But... So, yeah, I think it's just such a... And also what I love is... I like the fact that Lady goes over it first, and she doesn't, like, do any damage because she's so light, but Thomas, Diesel 10's right on his tail. So Thomas hits that piece of the viaduct and it falls off. And it's like, Diesel 10 wouldn't have crashed if Thomas didn't do that, right? Diesel 10 could have made it over.
The funny thing is, in the whole crash, Thomas is literally a meat shield. Like, the point of Thomas is what he's doing is actually very heroic because he does say he's going to help her. Pretty much his whole job is there is like, his whole purpose is, I'm just something to get in the way if Diesel 10 is telling you. That is so noble.
Yeah, he's shielding her the whole time, which is so cool, because he realizes how fundamental she is to the universe.
It's pretty much either I go out and it sucks for me, or she goes out and everyone I love and care about is gone.
Yeah, exactly. And I just love how Thomas is the one who throws the final blow that takes Diesel 10 out. Because if Thomas hadn't been there, Diesel 10 would have made it over that section. And Diesel 10 would have knocked out that piece. But Thomas goes over and basically is responsible for throwing Diesel 10 off the viaduct. Which is such a Thomas way to deal with this problem. He slams down on that section, tears out that piece of the viaduct, keeps going, and then Diesel 10 literally falls off. It's such a brute force solution.
He is literally the whole reason that Diesel 10 didn't kill Lady. It's like him just going over that bridge just saves Sodor and the rest of the steam engines.
Yeah, the fact that it happens on the viaduct, it's just such a neat thing. I always assume that it's the same viaduct as our normal viaduct, and they just redesigned it so it was more collapsible. However, it's like I think that's so cool that there's no better way to end the Thomas movie than by destroying the viaduct.
Agreed.
That's like the heart of the railway. It's one of the most significant locations.
It's been there since season 1. The first episode you saw.
Yeah, we've seen it constantly. It's been this constant this whole time, and it's so great that at the same time, when you get rid of this massive threat, you also take out the viaduct with it. Like, Diesel 10 takes the viaduct with him. He's not going without a fight. And it's just, that's such a great thing to happen. It's like the very last evil act Diesel 10 does is tear apart one of the most significant locations. Just as he tried to do with the sheds, he does with the viaduct.
Man, thanks for making me rethink my whole list. If this was Thomas battles, you get the point.
But yeah, so I really do adore. For me, it's no contest. I've been so inspired by that the Diesel 10 falling off the viaduct, that part of Magic Railroad. Probably,
the chase scene is one of the best Thomas scenes in history.
In terms of just raw coolness, not greater concepts and like depth or anything, but like just how cool something is. I have to say that the Magic Railroad chase scene and especially the crash are like probably the coolest spike in the whole show.
Yeah, it was the thing that should have been like a epitome of the Thomas movie. And it's like if almost everything was kind of like building this, it's like, you know it's coming. Like the classic engine chase scene. And by the way, one of them has a claw trying to murder him. It's like it's got the steam versus diesel dynamic. It's got the classic runaway feel. It's like the stakes are high, the music is booming, and I really should have included it on my list.
Yeah, I just think it's an amazing scene.
If there was any scene I could save from Thomas, like a sequence, that might be the one I'd save.
Yeah, it's fantastic. But yeah, so I would say, so that's our that's our top 10.
Yeah.
I think those are all really good options. I think you could more or less predict most of them. Slow Steven's like a curveball, so I don't think anyone would predict that.
I picked the same area / crash for my top 2.
Yeah, that's true. So I'm surprised because it seems a bit underwhelming, the one that you chose, but the more when you explained it, it's like, well, that is actually pretty amazing.
I still stand by it being much like Toad. I stand by this. I do think this is my number 1 still. But I would probably integrate the Magic Railroad chase scene in here somewhere. I stand by my number 1. Like that one speaks to me on a whole other level.
Yeah, no, it is amazing. Yeah, so those are all great options. And that's our first episode. That's our first top 10. Comment in the comments below. What you would like to see next, and what you would like us to cover, and what you would like us to rank. So thank you very much, everyone, for watching. That's been our first episode. I've been Master of the Lemons,
and I've been MultiGreenThunder.
And this is Thomas Top 10s. See you guys
later.